We are talking with Alisha Outridge today from New York City. Alisha is a serial entrepreneur, a professor at Brown University, founder and CTO of Byte and Chord, and a founder of Metapause. Welcome and thank you for being here, Alisha.
Thank you for having me.
We connect on so many levels, but especially on the music tech level, where I've been a musical artist and you're on the tech side of music, where you have a history of working at TuneCore. You've featured on some of the biggest programs, CNN, South by Southwest, many conferences around the world. Now, I think you're focused a lot on your two various projects, which I would love to talk more about, especially the fact that you're so multi-dimensional and you're such a contemporary woman. I think it speaks to a lot of women in today's day and age where we are doing multiple things and taking on many roles at once. Also, to me, it's such a great feeling of New York City, of New York woman.
I'm a Manhattanite, native Manhattanite. Yes, we exist. Born and raised in Manhattan. Went to school at Fame School. So I'm going to live forever at LaGuardia School of the Arts.
Your lifestyle, even on social media, feels like Suits or some TV program. But yeah, I just would love to hear more about like where you're at in terms of personal development, because I think that's a big theme right now, is just like seeing yourself as a product and everything really as a product. I think there's a lot of shifts in your country now with tariffs and supply chain shifts. You consult with so many businesses. What do you see as like our biggest need as entrepreneurs, founders, business owners?
I'd say for entrepreneurs, founders, business owners, we are all a product. You have to be the CEO of yourself in addition to whatever you're doing. Like, I'm a millennial, and when I was growing up, we were told, get good grades, go to college, get a job, buy a house and a picket fence type of thing, 2.5 kids, get a good job and stay there forever. And then at some point, you're going to get a payout from Social Security and retirement. That doesn't exist. It doesn't. It doesn't. And I'm speaking from an American perspective. There's other opportunities perhaps in other countries, but in America, that doesn't exist. And that transition happened while I was growing up. And I've always handled myself in that way, where even if I loved what I was doing at my primary job, I always had these parallel tracks of exploring my interests, my personal brand, and my hobbies, and monetizing and packaging up those hobbies into things that I could develop. And I'll give an example. I started off as a full-time engineer when I was 15 years old. So that's when I started in tech. And even though I was a full-time engineer, I was an oil painter. And with paintings, I sold my paintings, I had gallery shows, and that was essentially my young adult life of working at a tech startup, having building my paintings and selling them. I was a self-taught coder. There was no difference in medium to me between a canvas and oil paint and a screen. There was no difference between this canvas that I painted on and the screens that I built digital products on for people to experience. Both of them were artifacts and art, pieces of art that people could interact with and enjoy. Painting, app. Because I started off in that track, then I always continued that track of how do I manage myself and my interests? And today, that really breaks down to number one, I have my consulting firm, Byte and Chord, which is focused on AI product and machine learning, product development, people as a product development. So that's coaching and consulting to executives as well as students. I partner with several nonprofit as well as companies, for-profit organizations to be able to do that. And that is part of that one track at Byte and Chord is that foundation of I'm an AI builder that also believes in human intelligence. So AI, artificial intelligence, and human intelligence has that balance, and it always has in emerging tech, whether we're moving from horses to automobiles.
The main thing is that I get from you is that we have to be more flexible. Like we have to think way more in an agile way and work quickly and find solutions quicker. I've been using AI a little bit lately and just trying to figure out like where are the important places in my business where I need to use it. It's like an in-depth understanding of the market, the changes. You have a lot of changes in your country now with politics. So how do you work with your clients like when they come to you, and like where do you even start, and at what stages are the businesses?
Number one, market landscape to be able to find their quote unquote blue ocean. Amazing book, by the way. If people haven't read it, it's called Blue Ocean Strategy. You can look it up online. But Blue Ocean Strategy is the first book that I give to anyone that I'm coaching, for them to think beyond what task do I do now for my business, because sometimes they'll come and say I have a specific thing to do. But the first step that I do is look at the big picture for what's happening in your market and what things do you know and what are the things, the signals that are there, and that'll indicate that are happening based on what's just going on in the world. So that will be able to give you a really good picture of, if you're in a crowded market, that's a red ocean. And then a blue ocean is something which is where you want to be, essentially, that you're not in a crowded market is where you're doing the same thing as everyone else and it's just a price war. There isn't much differentiation. You don't want to be in that space. That's like Uber and Lyft battling it out. And Uber, Lyft, Grab in Asia, like doing the same thing. And like you have to expand. And that's what they did in a lot of ways. And when that was crowded, a blue ocean is where you're looking at the broader picture, and I use Uber as an example for that, and Lyft, frankly, as an example of that, where ultimately you're getting things from point A to point B. What are the ways that you get things from point A to point B? And that's why Uber expanded into Uber Eats, Uber pickup, courier service, because all they're doing is getting things from point A to point B. So let's just get more things, whether like not just people, but food, but packages from point A to point B. So that's the first thing I do, market landscape. Second step is critical path. And that is the key to deliverable. You have to have a critical path. And the critical path breaks down to where you are now, point A, where do you want to be next? And then what is the critical path to get there? And how long, like, is that relevant? Because the pace of change that we have right now makes that you need to have I always build a 3 to 6 month maximum roadmap. I can have a 1 year overview and I'll have a 3 year, 3 to 5 year, and possibly even 10 year, depending on the client forecast. But you have to have that 3 to 6 month roadmap associated with your critical path and break things down into, say, weekly goals, monthly outcomes. Because I'm a strong believer that you can get almost anything done in 30 days if you have the right people.
You look like you're in a very dynamic place. Like, it looks like you interact with so many different people. I've checked out some of your events, some of the videos. It looks like a lot of fun. But what does a typical week look like for you?
Well, the typical week kind of breaks down to my 3 pillars in life, where the 3 pillars in life I mentioned, like my consulting firm, Biting Cord. The second pillar is I'm the founder of the Metapause, which is an AI women's hormonal health intelligence platform. And we're like the open AI of women's hormonal health. Our first product, kind of like our ChatGPT, is called Elsa, the Endocrine Longevity System Advisor. So that is like that second pillar in my life. And that kind of encapsulates all of my passion related to women's health, longevity, aging, my own health, because I'm a woman. I get to feed it all into that and like build an AI that helps me do it better and make that available to the world. The third pillar is my stage presence I work actively in the entertainment industry as a comedian and a speaker related to AI and related in all of the industries that I interact with, which is women's hormonal health, so women's health, tech, so AI and emerging technology, and education, and I guess it's 4 then. So the music industry too.
I remember we were having a discussion about the music, AI and music, and you spoke at South by Southwest about that. What was like the main thing that you wanted to communicate of where we're at? I've seen a little of some of the startups. What it seems to be happening is like AI is used more for remixing and mashups, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be a big threat to producers and songwriters and singers. But what are you seeing in that? How will the future of music be, or how we consume music?
I'm consistent in my message for that because I've been speaking about it the last, I've been in music since AOL Music. Like one of my first job as a director was a manager was at AOL Music. So it's obviously the last few years of speaking publicly about it. My message has always been that AI is a tool and all emerging tech is a tool. And we have been using machine learning in music for a very long time. Artists there have been many studies that have come out and research and surveys that have been released consistently over the last 2 years. I even led one when I was at TuneCore, where artists want to use AI to be able to make things easier. AI also gives accessibility. And a really good example of that is you don't need to hire, just way back, we're talking decades ago, you used to, the only way you could really bring in a guitarist that have some guitar beats or some sound, like some instrumentals to your music, was you had to hire and find people to do it that you could also collaborate with. And pressing a button and working with a DAW, a digital audio workstation on your computer, enabled so many more people to make music. That is early AI, I would say machine learning's impact on the past in music. Opening up accessibility and enabling people to be able to share their creativity and translate what's in their brain and their hearts into something that others can hear. That's beautiful. We should continue doing that. Where the struggle is the monetization side of it. If we devalue human intelligence and overvalue artificial intelligence without defining paths to monetize human creativity, then we get into this position where people can't afford to create anymore. So then we no longer have cave drawings on the wall.
Yeah. But I've been thinking about that. Like the music model is never going to really change in terms of you do need a physical presence if you're going to go that route. You know, it's rare that you're going to be just a studio producer. And if you are, then you better be working with like good artists, you know? But I definitely think like music, if you are an artist, it requires you to be the whole package. Like I would love to just sit in the studio and produce and record vocals. But the reality is like, you need to show up either on Instagram live or whatever, like, or performing live, but you do need a physical presence. And I don't think that's going to change in the music model.
I think it'll change. Everything changes. Like we're at a point now, it's not scary change. It's just change. Like when the internet came, a lot of changes happened. The whole way people work and even the way that they defined a friend changed with the internet. And that is the level of change that we have with AI. And that feels really scary. The change that the internet did on probably some of the top industries that were big in the 60s to 80s, a lot of those industries don't exist anymore. But did we want, and I use the simple analogy of, well, computers like took the jobs of typewriters. Did that mean we wanted to just keep using typewriters? No, it means you make new jobs. It means you upskill. Like we aren't going to.
What I have seen is that's really interesting is someone that I met with does like video VR whatever, like so they, instead of live performances, they film the artist in a studio and then what's it called, it's like the holograms, I don't know what it's called, but
like AR, virtual reality.
Yeah. That appeals to a lot of people that can't go physically to concerts, and so they live in like small towns. I thought that's really interesting, and I'm interested to see how that evolves.
Well, the pandemic really shot up a lot of that due to people not being able to leave their home. But in Asia, there were some really good virtual concert concepts that had tested out in the K-pop scene, like mainly in Korea and K-pop, just because they have such a distributed fan base. It worked really well for that, and it kind of still does. And also the type of music, it scales to that. In other genres, there's a bit of a burnout, like related to that because of COVID. But like I think the TLDR is that because we can do virtual concerts, does that mean we will no longer do in-person concerts? And the answer is no. There's just going to be an expansion of how you can interact with your art, with artists. And frankly, it'll be beneficial for everyone when it comes to fans, when it comes to artists. Artists can't constantly be on tour. That.
I know that.
It's very exhausting. Like they can't always be on tour.
And also taking photos, like even now, like I was performing up the West Coast of America in 2019. And I had to book like all my own shows. I had like 28 shows that year, actually more, probably way more than that actually, but officially 28. You know, I had to organize everything myself. Like I was performing Hollywood Boulevard. They don't help you. The venue doesn't help. There are no rights for artists, as like in Europe, you have rights. They have to pay you certain things. There it's like pay to play. You're paying for the venue. They don't even like open the doors for like all the tourists that are coming out. So before my show, I'm standing outside like, hey, come in, like trying to get groups of tourists in. Just the whole business model is so messed up and it's exhausting. And then you also have to do all the photo shoots and everything. But it was fun. It's fun. But if you really want to produce content and that's all that you're focused on, that's, I think, where AI really comes in.
AI can help automate a lot of those things that are exhausting, like related to marketing. Can I give all of my content, which I do, and a lot of people do. If you have content about how you speak, what you speak about, who you are, what you're doing, in the future, everyone will have their own model, that their own agent, specifically their own AI agent that is trained on their information to be able to be their co-pilot in their life, to be able to automate a lot of tasks. When you want to use dating apps and you want to tell someone about yourself, the things that you're interested in, what your schedule looks like, all of that's going to be automated, for better or worse. But that means that you can focus on genuine connections. So that's one example. Your personal AI agent can also help you brainstorm and communicate on just what you're thinking and what you're feeling. It's going to be very hyper personalized, and like that there's a lot of risks with that we haven't figured out for this personal AI agent concept. But that is how people are using AI right now. They're using it to soundboard things. It's for the last 10 years, people who could have already been scripting all of their dating interactions. It's been that there was this guy in Russia and also a guy in America, by the way, who like automated, they built scripts to automate, and they got into the news to automate all of their interactions with women in dating apps. The messages, the timing of like adjusting based on what the woman was saying, and to be able to close a date. And they spoke to thousands.
Is it that hard for men?
Apparently, because like, I guess, I don't know how what they're doing, but they did that. And then the guy in Russia, he only actually interacted with the woman who is now his wife in person. Like he never did any of their digital conversations and tell her before the wedding.
So crazy. But I can see how, yeah, that's changing everything. So agents is obviously the next wave. And what about in the hormone company that you work for?
And this impacts all women. We're completely in the dark about a lot of things related to our bodies. The way women solve these problems right now of, well, what's going on with my body? Why these changes that are happening? Essentially, if you're like 30 plus, you're experiencing different things. And even if you compare your teen years versus your late 20s, your mid to late 20s, your body's experiencing different things. And the way that women solve these problems is talking about it with each other. They use the personalized web. They use Facebook groups, social media chats, WhatsApp communities. They ask a friend, and that is how they get, oh, this is what worked for me, this peptide, this thing. You can work out and eat as little, eat as smart as you want, work out as much as you want. Try to not be stressed about doing everything because you can or cannot have it all. You're doing your best, whether it's family, work, both. But the reality is that like your body's working against you. And how do you solve that? The internet and AI the internet solves that by connecting us with each other. AI solves that. And what I built at the Metapause, Elsa, my Elsa AI app, Elsa AI solves that by looking across all the patterns and insights for what's working and not working, so that you don't have to add to your plate an additional 6 hours a day looking across the internet to figure out what's going on and which doctor is the right doctor to be able to help you. And a key statistic related to that is, on average, it's the 9th doctor that finally helps a woman.
So basically it takes like 9 doctors to get to finding what problems you have or what you need.
So because women are really crowdsourcing some of this information, a lot of information related to how a woman's body works was illegal to even test. And like there's tons of snake oil references to what works and what doesn't work. Like if you hang upside down, then that will like cure hot flashes. Like that's not true. I just made that up. But like that's pretty much the equivalent of like, oh, like how does a woman's body work? It's this mystical thing that just wasn't supposed to be touched. And just take things that are related to men's health and just half the dose. And then that is the thing that we try out in the wild on women. So the 9th doctor reference that we had looked up in a lot of our conversations with experts, and there's some research about it online, is that on average, when a woman is dealing with perimenopause and menopause or hormonal health challenges, and she's looking for help, she goes through this trial and error stage of figuring out what's going on. Why do I feel crazy? What is happening? Why what is going on. And it takes on average, if she has the means and ability as well to see this many doctors and see the right doctors that pinpoint the solutions, it's about the ninth expert that she comes across, if she's lucky, a minimum, to be able to finally get help. And some of the reasons why is that she starts getting better at asking the right questions. The product Elsa AI that I built is essentially like that best friend of the woman that knows the healthcare industry, to kind of help you navigate it, to go, hey, here's what worked for other women, and here's how this relates to your biomarkers, your phenotype, like your epigenetic approach for how we think your body works. And the more data you put into Elsa, the more she's able to personalize that, so that it's I call it like Amazon on crack. Amazon knows everything that I want, because it just knows it knows things about me, and it just shows, oh, these are the things that are right for you. That's what Elsa does, kind of related, like not saying it's right for you though, because it's that, like, guiding a woman through that journey of what worked and not worked for other women like you. It happened faster. Maybe if we're able to get more information and be able to see the sources around it without like going nuts, searching all over the place and trying to find the right people. And I'm lucky that I know a lot of the right people to be able to get that help. We're a global product. We're focused on the US and initially, but we're doing any woman across the world can log in and use this. We don't have a services integration yet in the MVP that's out in the wild right now. When we do the services integration, it was very important that I wanted to make sure that we had a location integration so that I could suggest and what is around this woman, where is she, and what does she have access to, so that we can give her help that is accessible, and also give her sort of that overall projection of what is working for other women like you, and what we think your chemistry is set up as.
A lot of women in my age range, like my friends, it feels like, I don't know if we give so much attention when it comes to hormonal health. I think like only if you really want, if you're planning to have a child and you have a partner. But I think if you're single, a lot of women don't really focus so much on that. Is that true?
I can share like my personal like ideas on that. And then the generalization is that it really depends on where you're from. In the Western world, for instance, like the Western world, so Europe and America, there's very much this focus on where you don't think about it until you're trying to have a kid, until you're like, you don't think about your health at all. Like you get your period, that's it. and then all of a sudden it's like, don't have people touch you because you're going to get pregnant. And then, oh, well, you either get pregnant or you don't get pregnant, or you're trying to get pregnant. And then suddenly you learn about your body. That's kind of the generalization of women's health in like the Western world. And that was my experience personally. But then there's when you speak to others who are in different, like sort of non-Western cultures, they have different perspectives on it. And I'll share a story of a friend of mine who, she lives in Morocco. We were all out for drinks talking, and I was telling her about what we're doing. And we were speaking to just like how incorporating, like changing your diet can severely change some things like related to how your gut health is, how your body works. And like, wow, why didn't anybody tell me this? And fertility, like things to do to optimize your fertility. And she said, well, she grew up with hearing that. She grew up in Morocco. She grew up hearing that her whole life. Like mom shared that with her. So it depends culturally on where you're from. I think of it as this proactive and reactive. In America, we don't have a proactive general approach to health.
My American friends, I think they go all out in their 20s and don't really think about like, oh, we still have our 30s. There's so much stress, firstly, as a woman. By the time you get to your 30s or whenever you are ready to start thinking about a child, or even just in general, do you find that because our bodies are under so much stress and women start taking hormones at a young age, usually, like how does that affect the body? Because obviously in our grandparents' generation, I don't think it was as prevalent for them to be taking hormones at a young age and be as stressed as we are today.
Well, I would probably ask Elsa to tell me some context on that, because I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all of that. But I do know that there's the women's approach to health generationally has changed. a lot. I mean, the medical industry at one point was suggesting like removing your uterus as a way to stop menopause. And like if you felt like you were starting to get like perimenopause symptoms, they were like, oh yeah, let's just remove that uterus. And bam, now you're in menopause. Like you get instant menopause and like you're in crisis mode and nobody told you. And but they felt fine. It was something that was very controversial that's no longer recommended anymore. And I think that this generational approach to health is getting for the better now, where millennials are in this phase where we're experiencing like perimenopause to menopause at that broad scale. And we had like the generation before us giving us a little bit of insight on it now. But like when I asked my mother, like, hey, did you experience anything related to like, did you experience menopause? She's like, yeah, it happened. It's done. And I was like, well, can you tell me something? That's fine. She didn't tell me. I was like, I don't know anything about this. Like, and I was like, well, she's like, yeah, my hair got thinner. And like, yeah, just watch out for that. Your mom's hair got thinner. My hair got thinner. Your hair is going to get thinner. Now I'm in crisis mode going like, oh my God, how do I make my hair full? Which is nuts. And
How did you even come to work? Yeah, like how did that even happen?
my whole career has had this solid foundation of just leveraging emerging technologies, whether it was personalizing the web, building recommendation and personalization engines and patented IP at Facebook and Reuters, all these places, or building out apps before that, like when we went from web to like iPhone and Android apps and Windows apps at one point, personalizing the web. And those are all emerging tech. And machine learning and AI was something I got into very early in my career. And like, so because I got in it so early in my career, I was uniquely in a position where I could work in the social data privacy information space at pretty large companies doing that foundationally. So Kick Apps, I was their head of product. Facebook, I was not Meta, so early Facebook. I was a senior director of product there. Building in that space 10 plus years ago. So that's like private data, social platform. Then was entertainment and music, where I did kind of that same thing at iHeartRadio, where I was head of innovation when they were transitioning from iHeartRadio to iHeartMedia. And after working in the social platform space, the entertainment and music industry, doing that stuff, it was a unique position in the sort of like we're talking 10 years ago at this point, where I had this unique experience and I was in demand to be able to work with other industries. So the healthcare industry and the therapy space, I advise publicly traded companies there related to how to build out tech, leveraging machine learning and like early AI, if you will. The news and media industry, when the news and media entertainment industry was completely decimated by personalization and recommendation engines, where anybody can write an article, anybody can record a video. So why do we need to pay journalists anymore? Everyone's a journalist. I was advising there at some of the top companies in that space. So health and news, as I have this just unique advantage from the timing of where I was career-wise, which is a timing we're at now, by the way, where if you get into leveraging AI, working with AI and understanding core how it works, you can work and leverage that experience across multiple industries. So how specifically I got into the Metapause is that I wanted to know more about my body. I was experiencing something I didn't understand. And for the first moment in my life, nobody had an answer. I was even told I was crazy. I was just making things up. And I've never been told so much as a female professional, like with pretty good career. I'm usually considered smart. And I was like, no, apparently I'm an idiot now. Apparently I don't know anything. And I'm being gaslit constantly, saying that I'm just making things up. And then I got a stomach massage from this Asian, and I went to Chinatown. I got a stomach massage because I was having symptoms. And the lady goes, oh, you're pregnant. And I was like, no, I'm not pregnant. She's like, pregnant, yeah, pregnant. And it turned out I wasn't pregnant. I had fibroids and large amount of fibroids, and I needed emergency surgery, but I was ignored for 2 years from every doctor that I spoke to because they were like, well, you're just gaining weight because of COVID. Like, that's just what happens. You're getting older. Yeah, you just gain weight. I was like, no, I'm working out. I'm eating well. I'm gaining tons of weight. And it was I was feeding this fibroid and I was fine because I was very much in shape. So I was holding it together. But then when I finally got a doctor to listen to me, where I had my iPad, I was doing research and I was walking around going like, hey, here's my MRI with color, with and without contrast. There's something in there. And ChatGPT, well, it wasn't ChatGPT, but it said that there's something in there. And this lady at this massage place also told me something's there. They immediately, that doctor looked at everything, listened to me. And that was only because they were a personal concierge service that I had paid a ton of money to talk to. And they rushed me to emergency surgery the next day and said, you need to get this removed immediately. Like I started getting impacted, like where I started feeling pain, but nobody listened to me for the 2 years that I was figuring out what to do and trying to freeze my eggs. I was going nuts. And it was because like, I just didn't know what to say. I wasn't getting listened to. So I had over 10 pounds of fibroids removed from that emergency surgery.
And so what you figured out is like, if I just known how to articulate.
There were so many disconnects that had happened over that. Like I think because I had never really had anything wrong and nothing, I didn't have any symptoms. And there were a variety of reasons why I wasn't getting help, because, well, there's nothing wrong, so there's nothing to fix. If you're just gaining weight, you're just gaining weight. And like, if your stomach feels full, like bloated, well, like you can fix bloating. And I didn't know how to describe this. Like, I was like, well, I feel bloated. Like, okay, well, if you feel bloated, here, let's get you some Gas X. Like, well, that's not Gas X, it's something else. I feel something there. And they're like, well, that's just your stomach. I'm like, well, it's COVID, so you were less sedentary, so that's why you gained weight. And there were all of these signals. Like, it wasn't until I had to see, and doctors are like, they didn't intend to cause me any harm. If you see a gynecologist, they're looking at the gynecologist stuff. Like, and they can't really see what's going on. But when I went to freeze my eggs, they were like, we can't see. Like, we can't see part of this. And like, that's strange. So we can't actually get to your eggs. And you're going to have to fix that. And you have to see this other specialist. And then you have to find the right specialist, because if you just go around not knowing what to say, and most importantly, I had an MRI with and without contrast that wasn't in I kind of assumed with my techie brain that like, oh, well, this is in my file. And if I see a different doctor, it's in my file. And I'm telling them, well, yeah, just refer to this. And they're like, well, no, it's not there. You need to, like, I need to go get the MRI with contrast, contact the company that I did it with, and then send it to the doctor, or the doctor doesn't have it. And
yeah, you have to do something. You have to be so proactive. You almost have to be like educated in a way. What problem does Metapause solve? What is the single problem?
The single problem that the Metapause solves with our first consumer launch, Elsa, so Endocrine Longevity System Advisor, Elsa, is to really kind of package up and make easier that whole journey that I went through, as well as like harder journeys, because mine was pretty like low and like less critical compared to what other women are experiencing. And like I'm lucky in that case, but we're like a personal Waze and GPS for your body. And we can tell you these things of, hey, you should probably look at this is what you can think of, how you could approach this problem, like based on your biology and based on other women like you. Here's a checklist of stuff that you can do. Here's information. You're not alone. You don't need to suddenly go into Reddit and dive down some rabbit hole. You know, like look through the internet, make some friends that have gone through the same thing that you have, and the things that works for one woman doesn't necessarily work for you. So Elsa really is that sort of like personal co-pilot, or if you use Waze, a personal Waze app and GPS to be able to say, here's your path. Let's adjust your path. Here's some steps along the way.
I definitely am going to use that. I've given like very little attention to that, but it's so bad. And only my friends are in serious relationships have started to think about that.
Well, it's very like I'm a big fan of proactive health. Like one of the reasons I have a ton of stats. I was big in the quantified self movement. I always have been. And quantified self is about tracking data about yourself. I like to have baseline. So I have about 15 years of data baseline for how my body works, what my levels are. And when I see things change, testing is getting better, where I can even do more now. And Elsa provides that to other people of, hey, you can actually there's more tests coming out where you can test your estrogen levels at home and like progesterone and all of these things that are available. And you don't know until something happens, and then you have to go find it.
So do you give packs like that? Because I've seen startups like health tech startups that do that kind of like you do the personalize the test online and then
Yeah.
survey and then they give you a pack.
So we have a qualitative testing and survey approach to be able to suggest the right sort of packs or bundles or stacks. They're called a variety of things in the space, but packs, bundles, stacks. Ultimately, Elsa has a personalized stack for you, where you can say, okay, here's the information about me, here's what I care about. And you can literally just chat with Elsa and ask her questions, and she'll give you context about it. She'll be able to say like, hey, if I know this, like, do you have this in your family history? Do you know if you're sensitive to X or Y? Then there are two paths you can go there. And then here's how you can see if you're possibly sensitive to one of those. So she really gives this sort of overall perspective, personalized for you on what you can do proactively and reactively to your symptoms to achieve your goals.
I love that. I want to also bring that into ed tech. I was thinking about that. It was like people should be able to do a survey, and then because even in the coaching industry, it's turning a lot towards like insights driven. So surveys, curriculums designed for you. Then I was thinking of the physical element. It's so nice to receive like a pack of something, like to make
like, yeah, it's the pack. But then most importantly, if you have a bundle of things that says, okay, this is for memory and brain optimization. This is for fertility. This is for hair thinning. If you're worried about hair thinning, you can do these things. You can take these things. What is your routine? That's what Elsa helps you with. If you've got these things that you're using, what's my routine to be able to do it? And then is it working? Because if you're just taking things, if you're doing NAD and NAD injections and taking that and going like, well, let me see like if this works. Okay, let me take more biotin. Let me take this supplement and this supplement. You're doing all this stuff. How do you know it's working? There needs to be some sort of testing approach, and when is it best for you based on your cycle? That's what Elsa helps to be able to leverage your cycle data to be personalize your routine. So you can have a stack of stuff that you're doing, but you need a routine to be able to see if that stuff works.
I'm going to sort of try it out. I'm excited for this. Tell me, Alisha, what are your up and coming speeches? What topics are you speaking about? And I also know you spoke at South by Southwest. So yeah, what are you speaking about lately on stage? And where can people get you next?
Well, I'm actively speaking about AI's impact in the music industry related to my human intelligence speaking track. So AI and HI working together, because as a builder of AI, I also want to build out how we reward human intelligence and creativity to be able to use those tools. And that involves speaking about AI in the education industry at scale, and then AI in the music and entertainment industry, which is a big focus for me career-wise. I have launched an AI product fellowship course related to that education track, which is available on my website, Biting Cord, where if people want to get smarter about working with AI, I believe I demystify how to work with AI, how to build with AI. You do not need to be an engineer to understand how AI works and how to build something. And on average, within 5 weeks, I believe I can get anyone over the age of 12, but it's available to adults, but over the age of 12 to be able to ship something within 5 weeks. And even shorter if they have some experience. So that's in my education. And so I'm speaking about education and music, AI's impact on that. And then that second track of speaking is women's hormonal health and leveraging AI to be able to map the data and solve this problem of when you get what I leverage the internet and AI to do with Elsa is to put in every woman's hands, like the information for what works for other women like you. This is working for them. here's what could work for you. Let's give it a try. Let's see. Let's get your stack optimized. Let's get your routines optimized. So I speak a lot about that. And then probably the third, what I see them was all fun, but the third track is my professional comedy, where I co-produce 2 shows with Money is Funny. Money is Funny is founded by Elizabeth Sweeney. She recently ran for mayor of Oakland in California. She's the founder of Money is Funny, where we have 2 shows, Snark Tank and Flirt Tank, which is about tech comedy and roasting of brainstorming on ideas. What's the product in that case? The product is entrepreneurs. And you should be always going out there and pitching and evaluating your idea and like have fun about it. So that's what Snark Tank's about, and it's a tech roast show. And then Flirt Tank has that same model around connecting with other humans. And Flirt Tank is a comedic concept of dating live on stage. And it's a singles mixer and a comedy show all mixed together.
It sounds like so much fun. I need to come to New York City.
We're having a lot of fun here.
Perfect place for a woman in her 30s.
I like it. And the way to follow all of that is really either like look me up on LinkedIn at my name, Alisha Outridge, Instagram. I have a broadcast group on my Instagram. I'm Alisha Outridge everywhere. But I mainly focus on LinkedIn and Instagram and my website, Biting Cord. There's a way to book a 15-minute consultation with me to be able to speak about working with me, or either in a coaching capacity. The AI Product Fellowship is there. I'm opening up a summer cohort. So that summer cohort opens in June, and you can take a look there and reach out to get a brochure.
It's so great to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing all this very valuable information, especially for women. But also, I think you really make us feel like it's normal to be doing a lot of things. And it's so much the age that we're in. So I think just embrace it. So thank you. And we will check out all your websites.
Thank you.
Mm.